Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the East Zion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you could do about it. Today with Coffee with Curry, listen, I am excited. We have the great Reverend Cliff Johnson, who's coming in from Shiloh Baptist Church, Wilmington's oldest Baptist church. And while we are celebrating the Black History Month, I'm going to highlight all of Wilmington as much as possible. And today we have Cliff Johnson, sturdy man, a man who really got it together, been here for the last 25 plus years. It's going to be a great show. Why don't you call somebody, tell them Coffee with Curry is on, and let's get after it. And we're back. Well, as I share with you all, I am just delighted, I'm excited to have with us the Reverend Dr. Clifford Johnson from the Shiloh Baptist Church. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's good to be here.
Yes, and it's good to have you. You know, Pastor, I've had the opportunity to work with you on a couple projects, and you are just, I've always deemed you as a solid individual, love God, love God's people, and do all you can to help people, and I'm grateful for that. So for you to sit down with me today, this is just an honor on my part.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful to you that you were able to see something like that inside of me. That means a lot.
Wow, and it's the truth. Before we get started today, I just want to know a little bit about Cliff Johnson. You know, we're going to talk about the church, we're going to talk about other things, but let's hear a little bit about Cliff Johnson.
Okay. Cliff Johnson is from a family of 7. My parents had 5 boys and 2 girls. My parents were very community conscious, very big on social justice, very big on transforming community, and extremely big on education. I mean, the word in the house was, if you didn't go to school, you're going to die. They would kill you. Now, we were very poor. We had no money, you know, but my parents had a lot of pride. And insisted that we had pride. I mean, to the extent I can recall, when my parents used to buy our clothes, play clothes from a secondhand store. But all the boys, we had to press our clothes before we went outside to play with them. You could not go outside with a crease in your pants.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they were big on stuff like that. So I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And raised in the church, St. Paul Community Baptist Church. You probably heard of Johnny Ray Youngblood. Pastored there in a lot of years. But I grew up under a dynamic pastor who I loved and just fully appreciated him. And from the age of 11, I knew I had a call to ministry, but I would never acknowledge it. So I would spend some of my nights reading books on theology with a flashlight or something to light up. And I kept going. Look, stayed very much involved in the church, never left church. My wife and I, we grew up in the same church together. We stayed in the choir together. My first goal was to be an opera singer. I studied voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you have a nice, strong baritone voice, too.
Thank you. Well, that was my goal. And I started singing and doing concerts and stuff like that. And a very wealthy gentleman discovered me and wanted me to study in Europe. But the plan was I could not sing in church if I studied classical for him. Different use of voice. My pastor was going out to preach one Sunday night, and he asked me to sing the solo part to How Great Thou Art. When I sang that song, I said, if I can't sing in the church, I'm not singing at all. So I turned it down. And I continued doing the concert work around the city and stuff like that. My wife got married. My wife and I got married young. We were married now 58 years.
Wow, excellent.
With 3 wonderful children. And she still loves me and I love her.
All right.
And we still enjoy life.
Good.
Still enjoy life. With that, after St. Paul, my wife got married. We joined Bethany Baptist Church. Where William Augustus Jones was the pastor. And became very active in there, and he was also, he was very active in civil rights. So I got involved in the Operation Breadbasket and all the civil rights movements. And with that, under him, I acknowledged my call. I couldn't run any longer. But before that, I had 2 goals in life, 2 big goals. One, to be successful in corporate America, and 2, to be successful in ministry. If I got into it. When I told my dad I was going to preach, my dad said, son, let me tell you something. If you're going to be one, be a good one, or don't be no one at all. That's the choice you have. So I said, Dad, don't worry about it. You know, Dad, I'm going to do my best. So with that, I began those careers. I started working in various companies. The companies I wanted to work in, I could not because they were not hiring African Americans. But then when the civil rights movement came, the very same company that denied me a position came after me.
Okay.
They wanted to high fly in African Americans at that particular time. So that began my part of my corporate career. I stayed with that company for 20 years and became a managing director, a partner with the firm. Okay. It was the world's largest firm, professional services firm, with about $4 billion in assets. And I stayed there. But in the interim, I still maintained my ministry. I became pastor of Bethelite Institutional Baptist Church in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Small church. Stayed there for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And had a wonderful congregation. We built up and grew, loving people, loved preaching, loved teaching, loved the gospel. And that's the Lord let me know it was in the hood. It was in the hood, but all those young people did well. Okay. And if you go to that church right now, the young people who grew up in that church are running that church. Oh, wow. Including the pastor's wife was one of the girls who grew up in the church with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it was a loving ministry. And then I was contacted by a church in a little place called Tuckahoe, New York, which is Westchester County. Okay. About 20 miles outside the city, and which is a suburban congregation. So I felt the Lord was leading me from urban to suburban. Okay. So I made that transition again to Shiloh Baptist Church in Tuckahoe, New York. Okay. Which was another loving congregation. Very successful, wanted to do everything. I followed a man who was there for 45 years who had retired. Oh, wow. Long-term ministry. And when I got there, the people just jumped in and wanted to work hard. But after about 5 years, I realized that the Lord was calling me to urban ministry. Urban, okay. Yeah, I love suburbs, a place with no crime. Had a housing authority there, development rather, where there was no federal subsidy because the people pay sufficient rent to maintain the property. Yeah. That's how nice that town was. Yeah. About 10% black, about 6,100 total population. Most of the people came from Virginia. Virginia was very successful people. With that, along that journey, I kept wavering back and forth. I needed to give God all my time for ministry. This corporate stuff ain't working. It didn't happen. And then I felt God was saying, look, I need you here to pave the way for other blacks who are trying to get in, pave their way. And I spent my time very often when young blacks would come in for job interviews. I would be interviewed a circuit. I would close my door. Okay. Look, here's what you got to do to make it. Here's what you got to do to get through this interview process and blah, blah. So I felt I was cool. I had to do that. And now there's a point where I just can't do this no more. I've got to do full-time ministry. The church in Tuckahoe wanted me to do a period there, but then I'm being led towards urban. Right. Struggle. Someone told me about a church in Delaware. Oh. Shiloh Baptist Church in Delaware. Oh, wow. And I came down and I said, this is not going to work. It ain't going to work. It's not going to work. So I went back to Tuckahoe, and matter of fact, I preached one Sunday, and they said, we want you back. Well, I delayed coming back, feeling they wouldn't bother with me for delaying it. At such time, I did come back. The second time, I said, well, maybe this is where the Lord wants me to go. I called some friends of mine in Philadelphia, some friends of mine around the country. Yeah, Cliff, that's where you need to be. That town could use you. You could do great things there. So with that, I accepted the call to come to Shiloh. Oh, wow. When I accepted the call, I went back to my partners and said, look, I'm leaving because of the fact that the Lord's calling me to do this work full time. And they said, you must be out of your mind. You're going to give up this lifestyle to do that lifestyle. You're going to sacrifice this to do that and blah, 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 blah. I said, look, sorry guys, this is what I'm going to do. Well, they threw me out the room. We don't even want to talk anymore about this situation because we don't see it. Right. Next day they called me and said, well, we're sorry how we treated you yesterday. We know how committed you are to ministry, committed you to Christ, and at the same time, you're a very valuable employee here. So we will let you go and we will support you and help you through this transition, which they did. So with that, that's the Cliff Johnson that came to Shiloh Baptist Church in Wilmington, Delaware. Wow. With a wife and who came saying, if the Lord sends you, I'll go. Oh. And has been very supportive for the 25 years I've been here. And you know, and while you were talking, I'm in awe, number one. You have the trajectory of your life has been just amazing in how the Lord has led you. And I love that spin of
urban to suburban, you know, because there are many preachers, some preachers, who want the suburb because it's more money, it's more, it's easier. But the urban, you have to put in some work. And how God led you to that, and that's just awesome. But there's another piece you talked about, and that's your wife. I'm grateful to hear, especially the younger ministers such as myself, who are in ministry working hard. To have supportive wives is so critical.
Yes, it is supportive, because the fact is that when you leave the sanctuary and you leave your story, your study, you need a place of joy and happiness to go to.
Yes.
And that should be your home.
Yes.
And the wife plays a major part in that. And she's the one that not only maintains the home, but helps to maintain that relationship.
Yes.
And it's a joint relationship.
Yes.
She might not be a preacher or a minister, but her ministry is to, you and the family.
Right.
And if she does that well, then I feel you have the responsibility to return the same back to her.
Absolutely.
It goes together.
Absolutely.
You will spoil the daylights out of her when she's working hard for you.
Amen. Yeah, well, I learned that early. I learned that very early. And as you have shared, you know, you were raised under a strong, great pastor. I think that was my success, is that I was raised under a pastor in Philadelphia who taught us how to be men of God, how to honor your faith through the people that you serve. Now, you talked about something I joked with Zion Fair about. If you ask my daughter, what is the pillars of the family? God, love of each other, and education. That is our pillars. Where did you get your education?
Well, I went to, of course, Andrew Jackson High School. My parents went to Queens, New York. I went to Andrew Jackson High School. And then after that, I went to Delphi University and got a degree in business management. When I acknowledged my call, and then went to New York Theological Seminary. I got my MDiv there. And then I went right away into what's now Palmer Seminary for my doctorate degree. So I completed my doctorate at Palmer Seminary. Can I just stop
you for a second? You are, and I was waiting for you to do that because I done studied you. You're the first, and I hope the last person. I do not acknowledge Palmer. I'm an Eastern seminary graduate. So when I hear people say Palmer because he gave all that money, I say I am not Palmer. I am Eastern.
I only use the word Palmer because most people now they call it Palmer. They know Eastern. But for me, Eastern Seminary was my school. They supported me. They prepared me. And they sowed the seeds into me. That's where I graduated from, Eastern.
I am a great Eastern graduate as well. Yeah, but that is just awesome because when I was reading your bio as we were preparing for the show, I said, wow, he went to Eastern. It says Palmer on there, but I can remember the challenges, if I can just share this, where I was so churchy that I never thought out of the box. But it was at Eastern where I was challenged to understand God.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Because that was my experience. Remember, my father was a deacon. My mother was a deaconess. In fact, my father served as chairman of the deacon board at St. Paul for 45 years. So I am a church kid. And all I know is Baptist doctrine, Baptist this. So I go to seminary. I said, these guys saying stuff, what are they talking about? Well, they done stole my Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
So that's why I began to realize that I have to expand my thinking and grow into where that can really be helpful to people. To have a bigger vision. So I gained that bigger vision. Had I not gone to those two institutions, I might have been very narrow-minded and never been able to develop people the way I want to develop them.
And I think one of the issues that we're suffering from in the pulpit today, just my opinion, is that there's a whole lot of burning but very little learning. And my pastor was big for that, saying you're going to have some learning with that burning in order to be effective in what you do. So that's great. It is just this is wonderful that you had the opportunity to go to the institutions that you went to. Just tell me a little bit about your children as well.
We're blessed to have 3 wonderful children. We made a decision young that when our children were young, that our children would grow up to be regular children. And I told the church then, my child's a regular child. They're going to listen to music that you may not say preachers' kids should. They're going to behave, yes. They're going to do some things that children do. And I don't want you doing anything different. Amen. So my children today are still in love with the church.
Right.
They have never lost the love for the church, and they're still in church. Okay. So I have two daughters. My oldest daughter, well, she's really we call her a ghostwriter. She writes for senators and whatnot on some on insurance issues in D.C. My youngest daughter is deputy superintendent of school for the state of Maryland.
Excellent.
Yeah, her and her husband doing very well. Now my son works for a firm that designs and installs displays in various stores and whatnot. And he travels a lot. He's in Texas right now. But they've all been great young people, doing great things, and still have a church connection.
Well, amen. Amen. And again, you've shared, I have a young family. Well, my daughter's now 11, and I've been on the honor roll since she's been in school. But I shared with the church that, yes, she will be normal. Because when you have children who are normal and you're the pastor, they tend to last.
Oh, yeah.
And they tend not to hate the church because of this model you have to put them in, or they have to be a certain way or act a certain way. In my home, we have a home.
That's right.
Where my wife, she sings music that's may not be as spiritual as others. But the point is, we are a family.
Right.
And I think that's so important.
It really is, because of the fact that it impacts them being who they are.
Yeah.
And you want them to be wholesome people. Right. And you hear all these stories about how bad preacher kids are and stuff like that. And a lot is because their parents place too many unneeded limitations on them, rather than give them proper guidance and letting them be someone of themselves with guidance.
Amen. Amen. And based off of what I'm hearing you have given them you.
Oh.
And that's more important than anything else.
My kids still today love and respect their dad.
Amen.
I'm proud to be their father.
Amen. Amen. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and talk about the great Shiloh. When I first came to Delaware, I said East Zion Fair is the oldest black church, because I thought, I'm not doing my research like I needed to. And when I found out that Shiloh I started doing their research, and it is one of the greatest churches here in this city and in the nation. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Shiloh. We'll be right back.
This is Black History Month. This is Black History Month. So is this. And this. This is Black History Month. This is Black History Month. So is this. And this.
And we're back. This has been a very great pleasure of mine to have Pastor Johnson here with us today from the Shiloh Baptist Church. The trajectory of his life has just been amazing. I wanted to turn the corner a little bit and just talk a little bit about the great Shiloh Baptist Church, founded in 1875, 146 years, doing great things in the community. But I'm going to really leave that open and let you tell us a little bit about Shiloh.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called it the Great Shiloh. Okay. Because I feel that Shiloh is a place of greatness. Yes. And I think the name Shiloh even depicts that, a place of greatness. Shiloh was actually formed with a group of Sunday school people in 1874. And a white pastor helped them form this little group. His name was Eastland, Pastor Eastland. He stayed with them until 1875 when he helped them to formally become the Shiloh Baptist Church. Okay. Interesting thing, Eastland pastored a church which was Emmanuel Baptist Church, was on Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay. Pennsylvania and Green Hill Avenue. The church is still there. Okay. So they had that relationship. Eastland had strong connections with which became the Philadelphia Baptist Association, which was the American Baptist Association, which is still in existence. So actually, Shiloh's been connected with American Baptists since 1875. Wow. The interesting thing, in 1885, they called their first pastor, B.T. Moore, out of West Virginia, who was in seminary, a black preacher, in 1875 in seminary. In seminary, wow. And the seminary he was in became a part of Virginia Union University. which the American Baptists organized
Right.
way back then. So technically, B.T. Moore is a graduate of Virginia Union
Yeah.
in 1875.
Wow. 1875. In other words, you're making sure you emphasizing that so those who are watching that's recognize that is unheard of.
It is.
That is
It
unheard
is.
of.
It is totally unheard of. You know,
Yeah.
and when people talk about the separation of education and the church, that you need to be educated to be a preacher. Here's a man, 1875, who says, if I'm going to be effective as a leader, I've got to be trained.
Yes.
And took the initiative and the time to do it.
Yes.
And they're successful. B.T. Moore served the congregation for 51 years.
Wow.
Then he died.
Yeah.
So what happened in I think it was around 1888. 1888. They had 1884. They went out the Masonic Hall here in town. They outgrew that. In 1888, they built a building on 12th and Orange.
Orange, yeah.
12th and Orange. They literally built it because they built the first floor first and the second floors. They raised money, and they were very successful congregation there. And then, unfortunately, the city, in my opinion, played their tricks and said urban renewal. Okay? So with urban renewal, they decided in 1946 to buy a church on 5th and Walnut, which is where the courthouse is.
Right. Right.
And they worshiped there, and they were again doing great things. The church was known for first. They had people, a lot of like the officials, churches, school teachers. Starting first things, the United Baptist Convention was started by one of the pastors. They had a Baptist Minister Conference back in those days, started by one of his pastors. Okay. So they're always the first in doing things.
Right.
Young people doing great things and whatnot. Well, in 1946, the city played another one of the games. Urban renewal again. Now you know the year the courthouse was built.
Right.
Well, they left there in 1971, so they're vacant that time. The pastor then, Reverend Manley, who was happening Manley.
Yeah.
Manley said, "We're not buying any more churches owned by somebody else. We're going to build our own church."
Good. Yeah.
And he made a decision, and the church supported him, to build a location in 1971 to where we are right now,
right,
on 23rd in Washington. And all those pastors, when you read the history of the pastors, all those pastors were successful, not only in growing Shiloh, but being involved in community efforts.
Yes.
So the church historically has a DNA of social justice, economic development, education. That's in their DNA.
Yes.
And every pastor ahead fostered that type of activity. So when I came, I didn't know all the DNA, but I had such a sense of it in there. So I said, well, if for nothing else, this is a match for me, because I'm not a person in corporate America or my life. I'm not a system person. You know, give me a vision, I'm going with it.
Amen.
And I'm going to stay with it until it's done, until it's completed. And as far as I'm concerned, because by the grace of God, I function, it's going to be successful.
That's right.
So if you don't want successful, don't give it to me.
Absolutely.
So I came with that attitude and fell in love with people, and the people, they fell in love with me. You know, I don't know if they knew who they were loving with, but they did fall in love with me, and it's been that relationship to now, which will be 25 years on the first Sunday in March.
Wow, wow, 25 years. You know, and I shared earlier how 8 pastors in 145 years. That's remarkable by itself for a Baptist church.
Yes.
One pastor serving 51 years. Here you're serving 25 years. If you were to give us a highlight of those, just maybe 1 or 2, 1 would be fine, but if you want to go with 2, it's fine, of when you really, a proud moment at Shiloh.
When I was a problem?
No, a proud moment. A proud moment that you had at Shiloh.
Yeah, I have tons of them. But before I say that, one piece I left out.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know, and may not be acknowledged, but Calvary Baptist in Dover.
Calvary
Baptist in Dover was actually started by Shiloh.
Oh.
There was no Baptist witness in southern Delaware, and Shiloh actually sent a minister down to form Calvary Baptist Church.
Okay.
Now, Avon knew this, and we discussed it back and forth, and we worked together. I have not met the current pastor, so I'm not sure if he's aware of that. But Shiloh actually formed, not by split,
Right.
Reformed Calvary Baptist Church in Dover.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I did get a chance to meet the new pastor there. I think I think they kind of like leaving a lot of the traditional things and they're doing things a lot untraditional.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah, I haven't had the privilege of meeting him. Now, let me circle back to your original question. Wow, because I have so many. I guess one of the highlights was when we formed Marion T. Academy Charter School.
Okay.
I would come out every day and greet the kids on the school bus and talk with them. And these kids couldn't read. They couldn't do math. I said, this is a crazy, inadequate education system. And something's got to be done. I won't do all the particulars in there. So anyhow, some friends of mine in New York, business associates, introduced me to someone in Delaware, a business person, who said, I explained the situation to him. He said, would you be interested in doing something in education? I said, by all means. I said, something has to be done. Right. And make a long story short, we then worked against all the odds you could think of, to form Marion T. Academy Charter School. And the day that school opened, and the church was there supporting me, because the church could not own the school because of separation, church and state and stuff like that. But the fact that they supported me all the way through it, and as far as they're concerned, that was their vision. Right. You know, it was a great day, and I named it Marion T. Academy. My mother's name was Marion. My dad's name was Thad. That's how Marion T. Academy came in place, because they were such strong proponents of education. So that was a great day for me. Another great day for me was when I saw every quarter we do recognition of honor roll. I can remember the Sunday when I saw like 30 kids get recognized for being on honor roll. It blew me away. Okay. And they didn't fail to give God credit for it. Amen. You know, that really, I feel like I could weep like a baby. Right. So that was a great day. I'll tell you another great thing. It may be small to some people, but I had a gentleman there who was, like I said, Shiloh at the time I came had a lot of real senior citizens, in the 90s and stuff like that. And I had a meeting, and this gentleman got up. He was 92, 93 years old. And said, Reverend? I said, yes. He said, I love you. Now, for a 93-year-old black man to tell another black man he loved them, that's big. That's huge. I just fell apart with that. Wow. And I will never forget him and never forget his statement. And that propelled me to say that if I don't do anything else, I've got to make sure that I'm successful for that man. Wow. Excellent. Who expressed their love for me. Yes, so one of the things that I have done is I've talked to a couple of your members. Once you accept it, it's only been a couple of days. Give me one word to describe your pastor, is what I've said. And words such as passionate, kind, loving, focused, determined. And I found, in the little bit we've done together, I found that to be a reality. You made a comment, you said that you know, whatever you do, you put you all in it so it can be successful. It has been shown. I have attended this year I didn't come, but the last 5 Good Friday services of at your church, done in a very professional, godly, spirit-filled way. It has when you came here, when we celebrated our 100th, I said to the church, I said, listen, since we are Baptists, I think we need to make sure that we try to communicate and connect with the oldest Baptist church here in the city. And you agreed and did a phenomenal job. Shiloh will go down in history as being the trendsetter, trailblazer, and the torchbearer for black religious life. And I say religious because y'all extend beyond a Sunday morning service. Some churches are strong Sunday morning, but you all extend to the community through the various ministries that you have. And matter of fact, we have not had a chance to even talk about any of that. But if you want to share a couple of them or one or two, it's fine. I would really like to hear some of that. But that's why I said religious, because you help the community, and you said it's a part of your DNA and the church's DNA. But we have not had a chance to really say anything about some of the things that you all do. Yeah, you know, one of the things that bothers me since I've been here is that very often you hear people speak negative things about the church.
Okay.
What the church is not doing.
Yes.
And the church not involved in this. And I say to myself, first of all, the individuals who are espousing these words do not have a church connection.
Right.
They may have the resources and the financial resources, as well as the educational skills. They don't return to the church. And then they also do not take time out to learn out what the church is really doing. A couple, for instance, we have Nehemiah Gateway Community Development Corporation.
Right.
That's been in existence since the year 2000. Never closed its doors. One of our major programs is that we prepare free taxes for people who qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit. It's a statewide program. Pre-pandemic, we do about over 10,000 tax returns.
Oh, wow.
But we train volunteers to do it. And we have sites. We have 8 sites between here and Georgetown. And we have a partner out in Georgetown, which returns millions of dollars to the states into the hands of people, and also teach them saving, how to use the money they return. Along with that, we have a big youth component. One, we have a summer tennis program. We actually teach children a 6-week program for free, where kids are on camp morning and afternoon, playing tennis, studying tennis, and also getting tutorial work. We have a winter tennis program that meets at the DuPont Country Club, again free of charge for students. We have a sexual abstinence program now. We have a staff of people that actually goes around to various organizations and teach sexual abstinence. That's very successful.
Oh, wow.
We just graduated 200 children.
Amen.
Came through that program.
Amen.
Okay. We have another program where we have a 5-day a week tutorial program, working with kids with their skills. That starts in the afternoon, runs every night, and it's also highly successful. So we have a bunch of successful programs in there that's really impacting the community. And then we have programs at the church that we keep separate from that. For instance, we have a rites of passage program for young men. You know, we have a program called LEAP, Leadership and Enrichment Arts Program, that actually exposes young people to the arts. They go to ballets, they go to concerts, and we have sit-down dinners before every function. They meet the actual participants, and we have about 50 kids, all from the community. That's Shiloh. All of our programs are community-wide.
Amen.
Every program Shiloh has is for the community.
Amen.
And all those kids go to college, they do great things, you know. And we're around the country now, a lot of them doing great things like that. So those are a few things, but we are a community-based church. Now, we might not do everything the way everybody else does it, but that's the way life is.
That's a great saying. Amen.
That's right. I have to stand on principles.
Right.
Integrity is a big thing.
Yes.
You know, and so we push that, and also our whole being religious. I think that if religious have to be sacred, it has to be sincere.
Amen.
If it's not that, I don't need it.
Amen.
And Shiloh does not need it.
Amen.
Okay? So that helps us to stay focused, because as I preach Sunday, the fact is that in this changing world, we have to stay focused on what Christ said, I am. I am the way, the truth, and life. Let's stay focused on that.
Yeah.
So we maintain our focus, and I've seen people make great changes, turn. It's not a silk stocking church, it's everybody's church. I've got people from all walks of life.
Amen.
But the fact is, I think that we sincerely love each other.
You do.
And I think they love their pastor too.
Yeah, well, they do that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Pastor, as I was thinking while you were speaking, I just want your thoughts on the whole notion of the persons who like to just criticize church. You made a comment that it disturbs you. I'm with you 100%, because you can't criticize that which, number one, you don't know. Most of the time they don't know anything about the church. They just got a perception of what they feel, you know, should be said. But just share your thoughts on that as a seasoned pastor, talking to a younger pastor. Say, how do I handle those individuals?
You know, in some instances, you may say, I'll take the easy way out, because the fact is, in my opinion, if you're not with me, I can't spend time with you.
Okay.
I cannot waste my time on your unbelief.
Okay. Okay.
You know, and you're not willing to become a believer, or to put a negative winch in the program, or whatever a vision we're trying to pursue. I cannot do that. If I do that, the people who benefit will not benefit.
Absolutely.
Will not exist. And the same thing, I've got to make sure that I remain focused. If I focus on your negativity, I'm going to miss out on focus on the positive things I'm called to focus on.
Absolutely.
You know? And what helps that, of course, you got to have a strong prayer life. You have to have a strong study life, and you got to not just preach, man. You got to believe what you're preaching in.
Amen.
Because every sermon is not just for the folks; it's for you too.
Yes.
I mean, remember, you are the deliverer of the mail from God.
Amen.
So God spoke to you. He said, "Hey, buddy, I'm talking to you too."
Right.
You know.
First.
So you got to lose that. You have to use that. And for me, when I grasp that, a sense of excitement comes even in preaching.
Okay.
You know, I say, whatever that was, forget it. I'm on my way. The Lord told me to go. You know, and go forward, move quickly, and I'm okay. I know that there are people in this. I've had people in the city I know Lord have called me here. Here's that business pastor in New York, Slickster and stuff like that. I could care less.
Amen.
I could care less.
Amen.
I know who I am. I know who called me. I know what I've been called to do.
Amen. And when you made the comment that sometimes you have to make sure. Even though Shiloh may not do things the way certain people think they ought to do it, who said we have to do the same thing? I think it was Miles maybe to say you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to get what you always got.
Right.
You, Shiloh, have done a phenomenal job. And the programs that you even shared is just touching to hear that you're hitting areas that traditionally some churches do not even think about. And I think that's just awesome. We're going to take a quick break again. I mean, this has just been, we need 2 hours. I just wish I could have 2 hours with you. But we're going to take another break and we're going to come back. And then we're going to talk a little bit about not only Shiloh, but we're going to talk about your transition. Because I heard a little secret that you might be retiring. So I want to talk about that. And then I want to wrap up by really talking about the Black church. We'll be right back.
I'm telling you already.
But just like life. All right.
Air Jordan ready to take off.
Can I get an amen?
And welcome to the very first National Oprah Winfrey Show!
And we're back again. Great conversation. And I had heard this little secret that I'm a little hurt because I didn't get a chance to spend as much time with the Cliff Johnson that so many have talked about, so many things he's done. But I heard a little secret, Pastor, that there's some talk, some rumor, and I don't like to believe all my rumors, that you may be leaving and retiring. Is that true?
Well, I have to say, yes, it's true.
Oh, my.
As tough as it is emotionally and otherwise, Lord willing, in the month of May, I will step down from the pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church. I'll never step down from the people. I'll always be in relation, but I'll step down from the pastorate. And the beautiful thing, as I said before, all of my pastorate, all the churches I've pastored, I've had to go in and build. I've not had the privilege of walking in and starting top up. I've had to build up. And my goal was that when I became time to retire, that I'll leave a church in such a position where another pastor will come in and build it, take it to the next level. And I feel that Shiloh is in that position right now. In addition, I want people to know that, as I said to the congregation, I'm not angry.
Amen.
Nobody's forcing me out.
Amen.
Nobody's running me away.
Yeah.
I think I could stay another 100 years if God gave me that much life. But I have 3 children and 3 grandchildren, and my children grew up sharing their dad. My grandchildren growing up sharing their grandfather. My wife grew up all these years, sharing a husband.
Yeah.
So now it's time for me to give them some of that.
Amen.
Yeah. And also for me to do maybe whatever God, the next stage of ministry God has for me, to do that, maybe helping somebody else do some things they want to do. And that's the sole reason. If it wasn't for that, I would stay here because there's still some things I feel like I could do here in Wilmington and would want to do in Wilmington.
Right.
But if I start them, I'll be locked in. I'll never retire.
I got you.
So it's best that I do at this time in my career.
You know, when I came to East Zion Fair, I said to them, because I came out of the profession, I was a university administrator, but I said to East Zion that I would retire unless my life was shortened. I didn't, because you see all too often where the pastor has stayed so long that they've lost their everything, and the church started declining. While this is a bittersweet, the bitter is you're retiring. The sweet is you still have a lot of life.
Yep.
And you said something that I'm enjoying, and that is you'll be able to give your children and grandchildren, and most of all your wife, and still you can help.
Yep.
You know, what would you stay in Delaware, or would you move to another location?
We will relocate.
Okay.
But my focus is being used wherever God will use me. Of course, I'm getting phone calls. I need you to do this in retirement. Could you come over and help us with this? So the thing I have to do is make sure that I'm not busier then than I am now.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
But I will relocate out of Wilmington. I'll keep some roots here. And one of the main reasons is also is that very often a retiring pastor can be disruptive by his presence.
Okay. Yes.
And I want the church to go to the next level. I don't want that.
Right.
I want. The greatest compliment to me is to see Shiloh grow and develop.
Yes.
If that happens, I'm a happy camper.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And wow, that is. I hope for that. If there are any pastors who are watching, and I was just sharing with Pastor Johnson, being a younger pastor who I have 18 years, believe it or not, here at East Zion Fair, but that's 18 years total with pastoring. Pastor Johnson has 50 years plus of pastoring diverse congregations, building up congregations, and I sit here today with all humility, and I hope the number I was able to call, that cell phone number, doesn't change, because there are moments when I'm sure I'm going to need the wisdom, the knowledge that you have, because you did not pastor a church where it was not a fly-by-night, because there's a lot of those going on. But you pastored a church that was already established and understood its role. So I'm glad to hear that you will be available to at least help some of us younger brothers.
Sure, by all means. Matter of fact, I recall I had knee surgery and I was home, and I saw your worship, and I think I called you and said, man, I am so glad that you are still a Baptist church.
I remember that.
to hear a hymn song. At our church, we do diverse music. But every Sunday, we still have our hymns.
Yes.
Because they're so much a part of the faith. So, I'm saying that because I feel that there's a big part of us to maintain and to teach our traditions, not toss them away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And matter of fact, I think when I was reading the website for Shiloh, it talks about, preserving the history, but it focus on the future as well. I may not quote it exactly as it's read, but that's important. That's important. And I said, as a young pastor, because I was raised in a traditional church. I wasn't raised in, again, no disrespect to the new churches, but I was not raised in a church that was just established 2 days ago.
No.
Deacons were deacons. They did certain things. The deaconess did certain things.
Yeah.
Amen. The choir did certain things. Now it's almost like whatever happens as the Lord leads. I guess that's the language they use now.
Interesting you say that, because as a kid, my brothers and I, we played deacons.
Yeah.
Today you deacon so-and-so, you deacon so-and-so. Yeah. And now it's time for the choir to come, so we march down the aisle, the choir come down the aisle. Because it meant something to us. It represented something.
Yes.
And I think to some sense that we lost that representation of saying, we're here to worship God.
Yeah.
Not us.
Yes.
Yes. And that's why some some service and you say, hey Lord, where are you? Right.
And when you talked about being a graduate of Eastern or Palmer, I'll say it for this moment, that's something they taught me. Nobody's grand but God.
Right.
And whenever your service reflects more of everything else but God, God is not a part of it. I don't care how much you're shouting and whatever else. And as a younger pastor, coming into at that time was 85 years old, church, it was important for me to be able to respect the traditions. And unto this day, we have not gotten rid of one ministry that was functioning, the missionaries and the deacons and things. We still function as a traditional church. We have a space. We got young people. We're trying to keep our young people engaged, but we still have our choirs. And COVID came in and did some things. We celebrated our 100th, and we were able to see. And that's why I've always respected you from afar, because I see how y'all worship still remains.
You know, and the thing is that you can respect change and make change as necessary, and be progressive. You should be, and you should have opportunities for everybody to serve, the young, the old, and you have to be intent about that. And so young people don't know, so you have to teach them. And once you teach them, they begin to fall in love with it.
That's right.
My little kids can sing hymns.
That's right.
You know, they can also sing modern gospel, contemporary gospel, and I want them to do that. You know, but you got to make that blend for them. You have to provide an opportunity for everyone to worship, everybody to serve.
Amen. Yeah, Jay Caldwell said to me, I was talking to him yesterday. I told him that I was going to have you on, and he loves you too. And he said to me, he said, you know, Pastor, I appreciate the fact that you allow me to still, with the little win I got, to do a selection, because it's just important. This is God's house.
Right. It is.
This is God's house, and we must reverence it with Him being the head of it. Yeah. Pastor, you have accomplished many things. Were there any hard moments that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest moments for me was when we lost our charter, American Academy Charter School.
Yeah.
That was extremely hard for me because of the fact I knew the amount of work we put into it and how successful we really were. We were successful.
Yes.
But I made a decision to take on the bureaucracy, which they rejected, you know, and they got hot about that. And I had people who didn't support us, who looked like me, you know, and people in the background doing their thing against us. But when we closed those doors, with those 564 students.
Wow.
It broke my heart.
I know.
But I refused to give up.
Yes.
I refused to give up. As a matter of fact, we still, after that, we formed a school for young people after that, outside of American Academy. But that was a very bad day. And I guess, you know, it's been tough for me though, be upfront with you, is to realize so many of the members who've been so supportive. They've gotten older in 90 and whatnot, and to see them leave, it's you know, people don't realize you have to be the heavy to support their family and whatnot. But that tears you apart when those who have loved you and supported you and they're leaving you. And there's some hurt attached to that for the pastor. Right. Yeah.
And people don't talk about that, but I feel you on that. We just had Doc. I don't know if you knew of him, but he was a member of this church for almost 60 years. Doc Henry is his name, and he transitioned. And every time I would go visit him, I would just joke because I was hurting. I always talked. He was the Eagles fan, and so I talked about the Eagles. His son was a Dallas fan, but to see those older members who were there, who was a part of the struggle, who believed in you.
Yeah, right.
Even when others did not.
Right.
You know, and for them to leave you, I share that with you, Pastor. I really do. Yeah. And also the whole thing with the Mary Academy. I remember when I first came to town, and I'd heard the success of the school, but the bureaucracy is what got it.
I won't bear in this, but we chartered 3 buses to take people down to support us. Had 3 buses to go to Dover empty. Twice.
Wow. But you know what? You will always be known as the pastor, the first black pastor to start a school and get it rolling. And do great things. And I always say truth, you know, has feet. While lies have wings, they get there faster. But when it gets there, it can't stand on its own like feet can.
That's right.
So you have certainly done well. And Pastor, it is, you know, I just wish we had more time, because I really, so many more things I'm looking forward to. But do you have, well, before I go there, let me ask this: have they started the search process yet for your replacement or are you really going to stay around?
I think there are those who say, I wish you would stay around. Do you really have to do this? But they're beginning they begin the process now.
Okay.
And I do believe that God has the next leader in place.
Okay.
I don't know who he or she is.
Okay.
Where they're at, but I do God has a leader in place because of the fact we tried to plant the seed, to lay the ground for that person to come on and go on next.
Yeah. Will the committee listen to you a little bit for that? Because let me tell you why I say that. Yeah, not to even put you on the spot. You have served them for 25 years. They trust you. There's a lot of, and I hope I can name my, not so much I personally, but I hope I can be a part of the process for the person who replaced, because you put a lot of work in.
I will be a resource for the committee.
Okay.
In addition to that, we're part of the Philadelphia Baptist Association.
Okay.
So the executive minister for PBA is working with our committees as well.
Okay.
So they're not functioning in a vacuum.
Good.
Because as I said before, it would break my heart for Shiloh to call a person to come in to tear down what we've worked so hard through God to build up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that because again, we want Shiloh to become 200 years old.
Yes.
Not once you're gone, then it just falls apart. Although it's a very strong church, and I'm sure they would remove any person who try to not do what they need to do. And out of all you've shared, I'm grateful for just about everything, but to leave corporate America and pastor, that's a big money drop. But it was about ministry.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to you. And I want to say to you, as you're getting ready to retire, and whatever they're going to do, if they're going to give a retirement dinner, I'm going to make sure we support 100%. But I want to say to you, thank you for all you've done for Wilmington. You may not have been the voice who want to be out there in the front making a lot of noise like an empty wagon, but you have brought the substance that we so greatly appreciate.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that God gave me the opportunity. And I say this not because we're having this interview, but I appreciate what you've done and what you're doing. I pay close attention, and I like the way that you do things the right way to achieve positive results.
Thank you.
And no, I'm the guy. I don't need the newspaper. I don't need the media. Because I also learned that can also destroy you.
Yes.
So when Shiloh does things, when Cliff Johnson does things, it's done when you hear about it. So we're not looking for this publicity, and I think that remains. But I think you've done a great job of maintaining not just the tradition, but to be a Baptist witness. Because if we're Baptists, we need a Baptist witness.
Amen.
Amen. And also the fact that you've done so much to enhance the community and to make a future for young people in Wilmington who need it so desperately. Yeah. Desperately, so I thank you for what you're doing.
Well, even though the interview is really about you today, and thank you for your compliments, but I'm watching you, and I've been watching you. And as I said, I never will forget the first time I really sat and as near you was we were at Bethel having a meeting on this racism in state government, and I sat next to you and I said, wow, what a great giant of substance. It's not about how loud you are. It's about the substance of the person. So thank you, Pastor. I want to give you an opportunity to share with our community any last thoughts that you may have as we come to an end of this time.
There's there's two things I would say, because first you mentioned before about the young ministers coming into it. And I said every young pastor, love the people. Yeah. Love the people. Yeah. Everyone might not be in love with you, and everyone might not be with the way you are, but Jesus called us to love them anyhow. Right. And love them and preach the gospel. Don't preach at them, but preach the gospel. Yes. And some of the very ones who may not be around will come around. Yes. Otherwise, God does whatever he wants to do. So I think if you do that, it may take a while, but God will give you the congregation that will be effective. And I say to the women of the community, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But for it to be successful, the people and the women don't have to come together. There's got to be a unity in leadership from every sphere, from the social organization, from the church and everything else. And I'm blessed for that. And I have when I came here, I met some people who were really, really supportive of me and doing what had to be done. I took on some big challenges, but because of the fact I had it back. So the people in Wilmington today will come together and say, okay, we've got to change education. So educators come together. What can we do to change this? The faith community, what can we do to improve our faith witness? Wilmington can be a better place to live in. So I'm glad to have been here. I'm still here, and even when I leave, I still have my roots in Wilmington, because I will be doing some things in Wilmington you won't know about until you hear it.
Right.
You know, so you can say, "Well, you don't live here." No, but I've done what I've been called to do.
That's right.
Even far away. So I love this place. It's been very different from New York to Wilmington.
Yes, I'm sure.
Been a different way of acting. But for me, I think God has blessed it, and I've been personally blessed, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been here.
Yeah, and one of my good friends, I as you were talking, I just forgot, I have not mentioned her one time in this whole interview, who is one of my great friends, and I love her so dearly, and that's Reverend Hustler. That's my friend. She's one of your faithful members over there at the Shiloh Baptist Church. And how is she? I've not heard from her during the pandemic. How's she doing?
She's doing well. You know, she lost her sister, who was very close to her a few months ago. But she's like everybody bad. She bounced up, and she's again been very supportive of the ministry of Shiloh, and gives it her all.
Okay, good. Well, just till I asked about her, because,
I definitely will,
because that's my friend, and we often sit back and we don't fight, but we just go back and forth with each other. But she's such a great person. Pastor, again, thank you so much for all you've done, all you will do, because you're not done yet. I'm glad your family will get an opportunity to have you totally, even though a person like you can never retire. You'll just be doing other things. But like you said, don't get so busy that you do more than you're doing now. So thank you so very much. And for those of you who've been watching, you've been watching Pastor Cliff Johnson, who is really a star person. And this is Black History Month. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight Delaware, because we have a lot of hidden gems that you may not have heard about. You may have heard about Shiloh, and you may even know Shiloh, but you may even want to go visit over there, because it is really a strong church, and I'm grateful to God. So again, Pastor, thank you, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Back. I want to just take this opportunity to thank all of you who continue to watch us. Today was a great day for me. If you didn't get anything out of the show, it helped me as a seasoned pastor, sharing the trajectory of his life, pastoring several churches, diversity of the pastoralship, being able to come to Wilmington, grow Shiloh, do some great things, the ministries that Shiloh are a part of, his personal life, the success of his family. This is what God is calling for. For those of you who watch today's show, you want to know what a pastor looks like. You saw one today. Cliff Johnson has certainly done a phenomenal job. Not that any of us are perfect, but to be able to see what he has been able to accomplish in his personal life, his spiritual life, it matters. I thank you so much for the time that we've shared together. Don't forget to follow us on our Instagram. Don't forget about our YouTube at Zion Fair Baptist Church, as well as our Facebook. We have our services every Sunday. We have 2 in-person services. You can come to the 9 a.m. or the 11:30. You can catch us at 5 a.m. in the morning. We have our prayer and meditation every Sunday and every Wednesday. 200 to 300 people come on, and we are praying. We are talking to God, and the miracles are happening. Don't forget about Bible study. Zoom Bible study is every Wednesday at 7 p.m. We start with praise and worship. Then I come in with the word. We are now in the book of Romans. We have just entered the 15th chapter, and it has been a blessing with us being able to understand Paul's heart, with us not judging our brother. Brothers, I thank you. Sisters, I thank you for the time that we shared together today. It's been a great day. Until the next time, God bless.